So we will see what happens here. This is always the interesting part. Just trying to wait for someone to come in and see what happens. There he is. And he should be coming in now.
Yeah, we got some kind of a delay there, I think. What's that?
I say you're coming just right.
Yeah, I got like a delay coming on my end over here.
Oh, okay.
That's a little better.
How about if I all over, delete this and try it one more time?
I think you're coming in all right now. It started off rough, yeah.
All right.
Just got to get.
So we'll pick up. You were heading off to St. Ambrose.
Yeah. Yeah, it was all through high school. There was a lot that went on, my drumming wise, all the way up there. I ended up at St. Ambrose, playing football and in the music department. So think of those two little combinations there at St. Ambrose. But yeah, I was in the music department there, and it was I had to sit down, buckle, a lot to learn, during harmony, piano, keyboard stuff, and I worked a lot on that, still with my drumming. But by that time, I was playing pretty strong with the Amigos band, and that was going pretty good. But going back to my earlier years, a couple of guys I didn't mention, that I looked up when I was young, was the Munoz brothers that were in the Amigos band. They played with the Amigos, and they were also in the Amigos drum and bugle corps. So Mike and Dave, I looked up to those two guys growing up, but things happened, and then I ended up playing with the Amigos band. So we used to watch them down on Hero Street in Silvis there, practice and play and all around, But by the time I got old enough to play, in bars and things like that, I was already playing with them. But yeah, I spent my 4 years at Ambrose, and again, it was getting closer to the end of the fourth year, and just didn't know quite what was going to happen afterwards. Did some student teaching at Davenport, and then in a junior high over there at Davenport. And it was getting close to graduation, and didn't know what direction I was going.
Right.
But one night, it all came to me where I was going to do after St. Ambrose. Frank Trujillo and I, neighborhood friends, we had went out to a place in Davenport, and I can't even remember the name of the place. Stage West, maybe, or something like that. A rock bar in Davenport, on Kimberly.
Beethoven's?
I don't know if it was Beethoven. That it might have been. I can't remember. But we went in there, and we were watching a rock band, and a guy he went to school with, Brad Nye, Frank went to school with him, Allman. He was in town, and him and Brad were talking, and Brad had his roommate, and Brad was already in California going to this school out there, music school. So Brad and Frank were talking, and that left me to talk with his roommate, who happened to be Frank Gambale at that time. Frank Gambale and I were talking for good 3-4 hours, and we talked a lot about music, and from him being from Australia, it was kind of cool talking to you hear his accent pretty good, and with him being who Frank is, he was really interested to talk to, and he's a real down to earth kind of guy, and we talked about the school. I asked questions a lot about the school, and he said, "Yeah, you got to check it out," because I told him that Ambrose was getting ready to. I was getting ready to finish up at Ambrose, and he just was telling me about the school, and that's all it took. He asked for my address. I gave my address. He said he was a lot of info, on how about the school and how to get in, and then here it came in the mail to me, and telling me about the school, and right after school, I figured that was what I'm pretty sure that's what I was going to do, and you had to send in an audition tape. I mean, you could go to the school and audition there, but I decided to send an audition tape, and that's where I came to your place.
I remember
and
that.
Matt Rangel's Productions. We recorded. I recorded my audition tape there, and then I got the letter of acceptance, and so St. Ambrose was finished, and I believe I was going to start school in September of '82, I think it was, and I remember in August, I told Mom and Dad, well, I'm going to go to school out in Hollywood, California, the Musicians Institute, and that was my plan, and so I prepared for that, going to school there, and but on the way there, I had some ups and downs. My van broke down in Texas, and I ended up having to tow it all the way to Los Angeles, um, and that kind of slowed the process of starting school in September, and I end up waiting until March the following year. But I stayed with some friends out there from the Quad Cities. I stayed with some friends out there in Los Angeles. Actually, I was in Orange County before I went into Hollywood to stay. But there's some good times. A lot of memories driving in my whole life in my van. And then my whole life is just in a broke down van as I walk.
What was school like? Do you remember what that whole experience was like?
Yeah, I got in there to school, and there was just all levels of. It was just drums, guitar, and bass guitar, and it was just 24/7 drums. There was all levels of players. There were some people that were great players but couldn't read music. So they started in the lower, not lower class, but the simpler class of learning how to read, because that it was pretty much that school was learning 25 years of experience in a short amount of time that I was there. Within a year and a half. That's the time that I spent there, but yeah, almost 25, 30 years of experience, and these weren't teachers that just graduated and were teaching. These were professional educators, that played also live groups and toured and things like that. So I was learning from the best of the best, at that time, and I still remember all my teachers' names, and those guys. I have all their paperwork and everything here at home here. And I kind of teach out of that kind of curriculum when I do some teaching here. I do the basic things, and then I start off the PIT curriculum with that I have. But yeah, I mean, Vinny Calahuda would come in. Jeff Carl was a big name at that time. Alex Acuna, Graham Lear, he came in and taught classes. He substituted for a few classes. Um, Steve Houghton's big band drumming out there. That class was very intense. It was just all that was just hard reading. Um, every Thursday we would get to perform with players from in town that would give up, come and donate their time, and we would play like big band charts. And half them players were like people that were in the Johnny Carson band, and Johnny Carson band back then there was no mistakes at all. So my preparation for the two songs that I did at that time, I spent almost 2.5 months. The first 2 weeks, I learned to sing all the parts. There was no playing; we had to sing the part basically, and then we would apply it to the. And then Steve would say, "Okay, we're ready to go up Thursday. We'll get to play that chart." And it was pretty good. I remember preparing and getting ready, and it's kind of nerve-wracking sitting there watching all these players there. I remember I was getting ready to go play my chart, and Steve had introduced me to a trumpet player, and I just thought, it was nice to introduce me to a trumpet player. And as I sat down and I put my chart up, I remember the name of the trumpet player, and there it was. The person who wrote that chart was the trumpet player. So I kind of lost focus for a minute there, and then I got myself going there. But it's just, the guy who actually wrote the chart, you're going to play his chart, but I got a good compliment from him on my interpretation of his chart. But one of my favorite teachers out there was Joe Picaro. Dad, his class was really interesting, and it kind of turned my playing around technique-wise, reading-wise, his approach to drums-wise. And I racked his brain up every day. And I'd be that kid, "Hey, Joe," in hallways. And during when I was getting towards the end of my school there, every time I call him, there's another guy that was going to school there, and his name was Kurt Viscara, and they call him Kirky B. And I guess we kind of looked like each other, and he had the long hair that I had, and he had his long hair, and he was, we kind of looked like each other. And then when I said, "Hey, Joe," and he said, "Hey, Kirky," I said, "No, I'm Al." So he would get us after a while. But yeah, I got to meet Kirky B. He was walking, he was there at the school. He came in after I did, and I watched some old videos, how he got the actual part to play with time. And he was one of the only guys that could play that 7/7/93/11 actual part. That was the actual drum machine part to begin with, and you should see his story how he got that part. It's a funny story, but yeah, I've met a lot of people in business. Going to that school, besides what I was, the classes I was taking, I learned a lot from the students too, because I think there was 99 of us in the that drum year, and I think there was only like 30 of us from the United States. The rest from around the world. And, I learned a lot of my lap percussion playing from two guys. One guy from Cuba, and every night they would sit down in this hallway. Actually, there were some tall steps to get kind of a landing, and halfway there, and they would sit there, and they would put just between the bongos and congas, and I wanted to sit in, and they would hand me it would be like the biggest conga, and you just got to play this part. And that's the only part I could play until I learned the clave playing, and then they would move me up a little bit. But it was funny how I got treated there. But that's how I started playing. Since they were little kids, they were playing all those rhythms.
Wow.
Yeah, and just there was a guy from China. He was a real little guy. Maybe about 5 foot, 100 pounds wet. His approach to jazz playing, he could play jazz really, really well. His independence was crazy. But just talking with him, it's just how their approach towards music was way different than our approach here in the United States was. And, that's another little things that I learned, little things like that, just talking to each other and how they learned and how they studied. And so it was pretty cool.
And what did you do after you graduated?
I was in a band, and we got to play around town. I got to play all the, the Whiskey Go-Go and the Troubadours back then, and Madame Wong's. Um, there's a place called Madame Wong's, and it had like 3 floors, and each one of the floors, it was kind of like a dance land type thing, going up through the back way. But there was a hallway, and there was always, everybody wrote their name on the walls, and I kind of scratched my name in right next to Sting. But and then we got to play at the Coliseum there, at Los Angeles Coliseum, in front of the Olympic Depot. I was playing with the guy. Name of the guy is Randy Ray Riggs, and he was a songwriter. He's from North Carolina, but the whole band were from graduates or people going to the school that I was going to. I got to play there while I was in Los Angeles. And did a few things, commercials, did some, did some project things here with, from school, and over at Burbank Studios and that. But yeah, they put you right in the thick of things. They prepare you pretty hard. I mean, they don't hold back on how they feel when you're playing. I remember because every day there was a performance class at the end of the day, and you walk in and there was a table and they'd have charts of what songs that they were doing for the day. Anything from jazz to funk to Latin to blues to all that. And I remember there was a guy playing and they were doing a jazz song, and they were trying to trade fours, and he just went into more like a Neil Peart type solo, and he got yelled off the stage by the instructor there, and that was the thing I'll never forget, because he wasn't playing the right type of solo for that style of music, and yeah, they were in your face pretty good, kind of like boot camp type thing. But that's how it is out there, there's dog world, and so I went to a few auditions, just you hear about things and you get to experience the stuff, and I think there was a Julio Iglesias, I think, was doing a Pepsi commercial. I mean, I stood in line for like hours, before I got a chance to go up and play. I don't know what they were looking for, but it's just the experience. It's never a dull moment music-wise, there's people playing all the time here and there, and there's a place called the Baked Potato, all the top players are playing there. And it's just a small room, it's no bigger than Cheers. Cheers is no bigger than that, you just go in and you have the top players playing there. But yeah, that was my time in California. And then I came back to the Quad Cities, and I think I spent a year up in Chicago, and was playing up there before I landed back here.
When you came back here, you start playing with?
I don't quite remember, to tell you the truth. It might have been the Amigos again, or Casino might have been. But I do remember I got back, and I was in town, and I was up at McKay's Music up there in Moline, on the avenue, and I walked in, and I said Scott Stewart was there. He's kind of running things there in the drum department, and kind of said hi. I said, hey, we're just kind of small talking, and I was just kind of getting the feel of things, coming back in town, and he said, hey, you looking to teach? And I said, yeah. Next thing you know, I started teaching at McKay. And I was doing pretty good at McKay. I think I was between the Moline and Davenport store. I think I had maybe about almost 50 to 60 students at one time. So I was working pretty good. After my day gig, I was working from like 4 to 9 almost every day. I did that for about 5 years or so.
Was this like the late 80s?
Yeah, yeah, 87, 88. It was after I got back from Chicago. I got that started out. But I think
Didn't you do a rock gig?
Oh, I did do a rock gig. That's right. Yeah. Oh, I came back. I did a. There's a band called Luster King I played with. They played every Sunday over at the old Orwell's in Moline, and that was more along the line that what I was kind of looking to play. That's kind of the smooth jazz type thing, Spyro Gyra, that Dave Sanborn, that kind of stuff. I played with them and for a while, and I'm pretty sure I think I was back in the Beatles, but they were. I got a call from a band called Cold Shot, and that was where one of the days that I got to do music on Tuesday, first gig on Thursday or something like that. So and we did go on the road for a little bit. I mean, I went on the road with them for a little bit, but that's back when we played 5-6 nights a week at different places. We did Cincinnati, Lexington, Owens, some places down that way. Indianapolis. We're doing places like, and that was pretty fun. I mean, it was classic rock with Def Leppard, the hair band-aid kind of music. That's when I had long hair. But yeah, when I got back, I played with different bands. I mean, Chunkster, played Chunkster, a band called Chunkster. We go down to the Palace on Sundays, and that was probably one of the best jam nights back then. Just going down to the Palace Sunday nights, and the band Bunk City came out of that, and I played with Bunk City with a few of friends of mine. And there was many versions of Bunk City, but I was one of the part of them. I spent 5 years with Ernie Penniston playing blues. And that was a good gig. Just a little three-piece gig, Got my shuffles in and that. And still playing with my combos every night when they had a gig. But yeah, there's many gigs every year. Really, this is probably the most right now where I'm at, the most downtime I've ever had that I could remember with my shoulder injury. The last show I did was with you, I think. I can't remember, it was January or something.
Yeah.
But that's the last time I touched this drumstick. I've got them out now, coming back, doing some pad work, getting ready. Thought about setting the drum set up. I said, no, I better not yet.
So who were say like after you came to school, what was some of the music that you liked then?
By that time, I was really into the fusion part of jazz playing, the Spyro Gyra type of jazz, the smooth jazz. I mean, that was one of the main things I really looked to play to. I didn't think there was a lot of money in there, playing wise, but that was the things that I like to play. I really liked a lot of that. The fusion type things, getting into more of the odd meter type, 7/4, 5/4, and things like that. Getting that kind of stuff in there. So that was the kind of music that I liked coming back from school. I spent a lot of time learning that, listening to that stuff. I mean, Spyro Gyra was one of the big bands that I used to listen to all the time. And it was just, you would see a lot of the guys at the school, and one of the bass players that I graduated with actually ended up playing with Spyro Gyra for a little while. So that was a big thing. And there's just so many stories, from school, the days out there. I spent time when I was out there. I would go to the weekend parties at houses down there in Orange County, and I end up seeing, would be Gwen Stefani and her band playing in garage things, um, and I would just go there. But right now, after realizing and talking to friends that I used to go with, remember Gwen band out there? Oh yeah. I would see garage band parties out there in the ska kind of top bands. Um, but yeah, that's when I came back. It was the smooth jazz fusion, um, and I think it was about 1996ish, maybe. Um, through a friend of mine, he said, "Hey, I know a guitar player that also went to that school out there, and he's playing up there at the Fargo." And I went up there to watch him, and I introduced myself, and that was the beginning of introducing myself to Paul the Cow. That we learned that we had the same kind of interest in music, and that's how we created the fusion and doing the fusion. You know, and yeah, his mind is out there when it comes to playing. It's great, and that was one thing I liked playing with him. We do maybe a show once every 2 years or once every year, or we go sit in somewhere uh, about once every 2 years or a year, and without any rehearsal, we just go and we go play. But there are, I do have another friend of mine that went to school out there. We hung out a lot. We worked together at Vans shoe store out there. Tony plays with, I think, one of the AC/DC bands. I don't remember. I don't want to get it wrong. The tribute bands. I can't remember. That's what happens when you're getting older. He's a great player. Another funny story is when you first started school, you had to fill out a little survey of some of your influences and bands that you like to listen to. Of course, I wrote down Santana, and then you're handed a sheet. There's a band that you have to perform with all year with. You know, so I met this guitar player, and he was playing, and his name was Denny Giosa. And he was from Indiana, and he had this. He had loved to play Europa, and I remember him. There was his way of playing it. It was cool, and so we performed that a few times. But after graduation, we all went our separate ways, different, and it was, I can't remember how many years ago when I finally got satellite radio on my truck. Um, I happened to be on the watercolor smooth jazz, and all of a sudden I heard Europa, and I had to look down, and there it was his name. So, and from there I kind of contacted him. He's down in Nashville area, actually Nashville, and we've got some great CDs out right now down in Nashville, and we kept contacting. And when I was out at NAMM a few years ago, we kind of hooked back up finally, saw each other.
I've had a couple of from.
So he's asked me, he said if I'm ever down in that area, come out, get together and play. And I'm still looking forward to doing that. But yeah, that was his way of playing it, his sound. When I heard it on the radio, it sounds so familiar, and I had to look down, and I seen his name. And then I did some social media searching, and I found him. And, kind of made contact, and that was cool.
Now, who are some of the other bands you played since 2000? I know you did a lot of gigs.
I think I was into the country probably by then. My first country band was Buckshot.
Oh,
The band Buckshot. I was with the band Buckshot, and then from there, I've just been doing country since. Um, with Buckshot, I learned a lot of the older style of music, country western, country music. You know, I played with Cal Stage for a while. I played Dirt Road Rockers when they were doing country for a while. I had a band. It was called Gambler. We did country for a while. Um, and then let's see who else. And then I think I had a little downtime, and I answered an ad. You know, a guy looking to do like current country, and that's how Cody Road came out. So I kind of got into the beginning stages of Cody Road. Then after Cody Road, I was with North of 40, and that's where I'm at right now, playing with North of 40. So I've gone around all the country gigs,
yeah.
but you know that was during that whole period of time. That's where the money gigs were, you know, in country. A lot of the rock gigs weren't, you know, not a lot of people were going out seeing rock bands. And there was a few blues bands, but they just weren't, you know, they would come and go. Blues bands would come and go, you know, or they would switch players or things like that. But yeah, that's where it is right there. But I think that's
Yeah, I
pretty much.
think with the younger guys, they have to, maybe you can speak about how you learn to, when you're younger, you're playing what you want,
Right.
but then if you're looking to pay the bills, you got to not overdo your desire because, like I said, a blues band, they may not get hired or they could be breaking up, and you're looking for some type of consistency to with money.
Right. Um, it's great to have what you love to play, but it's not always going to work out to pay the bills if you're looking, you know, as part of your income, bread money. You would have to go where the money is at. For me, like I said, smooth jazz is what I love to play, and I still would like to get together with some guys just to play around and do some stuff like that. You know, record some stuff. You know, not for money or just to play around. There's some great players here in town. Um, you know, rock was going pretty good in the '80s and early '90s, and then country's always been, you know, kind of around, just kind of hanging on. But with the new current country that came through, you know, with the Jason Aldean, and Luke Ryan, and all that, that's what people wanted to hear. So that's where the money was, you know, as a band playing that kind of music. Um, Original music, you know, this area is very hard for original music. Um, I know there are spots here and there are great players, um, but I wouldn't change this area musicianship wise, player wise. You know, we would compete with any great cities. You know, Nashville, the Chicago area. As a small for our small area, I think we have some of the top players around. You know, I think we would easily go down, you know, up to Chicago, down to Nashville, walk right in and work our way as a top player. You know, in town. But you know, I say this area has some great players. You know, for every instrument in town here.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, for the younger guys thinking this is all I'm going to play and they're going to keep fighting for it, and that's. I'm glad you have that drive, but at some point in time, you know, you got to have a little money in your pocket if that's what you're shooting for. Um, you know, last year, you know, like the last 3 years, I probably averaged over 110, 15 gigs a year, playing with the country band. So right now, country, whether you like it or not, that's where the gigs are at. From a drumming standpoint, I do like playing a lot of the older country because it's kind of like the shuffle stuff feel, and it's not your boom smack type of rock playing. You have to have some finesse to play some of the older country western songs to learn that, and some of the newer stuff where I'm getting into the electronic stage of combining the two electronic drum playing. So that was a little different for me this year, last couple of years. But yeah, that's I still would love to play, smooth jazz somewhere, but that's you don't see, it's hard.
Yeah, I think people don't realize that the club owner is what's bringing money in.
Yeah.
And that's, you can't get to that because they've got to make their money. And,
Yeah.
And as you know, in this area, it's hard to get people to come out to jazz or stuff like that, on a consistent basis for the club owners to pay their bills.
Exactly. Just any kind of style of music, going into a establishment to play. I know I can't remember the number, but I think before the doors even open, the establishment is already 33% in the hole because, they have to buy what they have to buy and what they have to already have before the door opens. They're already in the hole. And, if you bring in two to five people to listen to you and they're just drinking water or Pepsi, the establishment's not making much. So, yeah, you need to bring in people that are going to help out this establishment, um, come out and have live music all the time. If you want to go hear live music, please spend 10 to 15 bucks, please.
Exactly.
Live, it might seem a lot, but to hear live music, that's what it's going to take. Whether it's food or drinks or, each person's got to spend about 10 to 15 bucks. That'll help us out. Help both people, the establishment and the musicians. Because we as musicians, a lot of people, it's hard to swallow. Can you play for free? Or I'm thinking, I spent 30, 40 some years of educating myself in my craft, and you want me to play for free, and it's hard to swallow sometimes. But, they don't. They're there for the band plays from 8 to 12, but from 6 to 8 they're setting up, and from 12 to 2 they're tearing down. So you add up the hours, add up the manpower, it all adds up in our musicians' mind.
Yeah.
But yeah,
what would you give some advice to younger musicians trying to get on the scene and stuff like that?
Get on. What was that?
The gig scene.
The gig scene, yeah. Don't get playing with bands right now. Don't give up taking lessons, please. If you're taking lessons, don't give up. Because right now, as many years as I've been playing, I am still learning my craft. Whether it's online lessons or listening, whoever I go watch, I'm learning something from every player that I watch when I go out to watch a band or something. Younger kids, please keep taking lessons. Joe Picaro always said, skill will only take you so